sorry, but you actually don't want mushroom coffee.
Yeah. Some of them were me.
We were actually just talking about it. Garrison's trying some mushroom tea.
How you
We're
doing?
talking about your mushroom. Was it mushroom coffee?
No, I just take a supplement. Mine's made. I will tell you, my level of clarity taking that supplement is like.
Still got the glove.
Yeah,
We'll see you next month.
You're right, exactly. Give us some
It's
time.
like an ADHD supplement. It's actually called Lime.
Settle down, you know. Let me be new for 1 second.
But
I know, they've only been here for 4 days.
Yeah, I know.
I tell people,
Some getting lost out here.
it's called Lime Mate, and I tell everybody about it because it just like,
It's
you
it's
can
the
buy
same.
like
You
these
start in the
capsules.
school
I
year.
have like a powder that I
16,
use.
it's
And,
I'll see you in
oh my god, my
Columbus
mental
Day.
clarity
That's
is
how it
on
works.
that.
Yeah.
Because I can like, once I like, if I
What's
can't
that?
take it for a couple days, I'm like, oh, I need to like, take my supplement. I just feel like my brain
Yeah,
is
so I
quiet,
apologize.
able to like pause and move to the next thing instead of like,
Do we have to change?
I think it's
I love
just
it.
his October holiday.
Yeah, it's not, it's like marriage and
I've read that it's safe to get 50 because so it's literally just a mushroom. Like you can eat it, you can put it in your food. Yeah, so it's just food as long as you get like a
They weren't out
supplements
there.
can be because they can put things in them, so you have to make sure that you have like a food grade quality thing.
They're not FDA right now.
Right. So like,
by next
but Lion's Mane it's literally just food. Just good for your brain health. They have other ones too. They're just any type of, they're called nootropics. Good for your brain health. For my dinner right now. I like.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah,
That's what okay, that's what I
Yeah.
call this.
Are you ready?
The 7 like that.
It's a 10 out of 10. I just get mine on Amazon.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
That's a good
You feel like it's good? It's really good.
I started on the coffee. I'm not a fan of coffee, so I switched. Then, actually, right when I ordered my first batch of the coffee one,
Yep.
they came out with the chai. The chai. I was like, gosh.
There hasn't been a rush.
Yeah, I switched.
I haven't tried the coffee. I just use the powder and I put it in whatever. There's more water. I will say it tastes like the supplement. Because I have a powder right now. It's cheaper to buy a large quantity, and it does taste like that.
This one, no. This one, yeah, you can't. You don't taste.
Okay, because that's why I'm like, I don't know about the coffee. Like, I don't know if my coffee tastes
The
like dirt.
coffee tastes just like coffee. This one tastes just like tea. Yeah, you don't taste the.
It's screwy.
And I love mushrooms as well.
to the
I love mushrooms. So I like to get the
I
stuffed
know,
mushrooms.
well, right now,
A lot of my
I
friends when they come over, I try to serve them to it.
They don't like
I
it.
got a
I know. My husband and I like them too. Like we're just.
No, it looks good.
There's like a Thai place in Norwood that has like the best mushroom soup. It has
You're
like
right.
every type of mushroom. It's like it's just. But people are like, how would you do that? I'm like, they're one of those foods that like
Magic mushroom.
They also have some like the mushrooms that taste and has the same texture as beef.
I remember before the last election, we had some.
they're not mushrooms. Whenever we tried to grow them in our just regular mushrooms,
Like
like
one of my friends
we tried like the baby portobellos, and they're really hard to grow.
Especially when you have
So I'm like, sometimes, yeah, I just could not grow the baby portobellos,
texture is just like beef.
we got nothing. We bought all these seeds. I'm like, our garden's pretty nice, but that is like one thing that we. Have you seen the mushroom documentary on Netflix?
I have the brownest thumb that
I
I've
think
ever seen.
Mushroom documentary on
I
Netflix.
started.
I look at something and
I have to go back
I've
and
really
watch
gone
it.
down like a very deep path in like soil
It's
and
really my husband. I'm not
farming and
very
stuff
good.
like that, but
I
like
like say it's my garden, but it really is my husband's garden.
grow mushrooms.
Oh, there we go. I love it.
Locally.
Yes. Our tomatoes didn't do great this year. I don't
It's
know
really
if they
easy,
just-
but if they don't spawn, if they don't grow, so it really just depends on your outside temperature. But there's this whole like, there's this other documentary watching about the trees, which I didn't realize
I
that
love people
trees
whose like
communicate to
wheels
each
are
other.
like all.
Yeah, they
And they like give supplements to each other to grow.
using the mushroom
Yeah, they use the mushroom
network,
yeah,
psyllium network to communicate with each other.
Yeah, they communicate like they communicate like positive and negative energies and like mentally. That's why they say when you ground, when you get into grounding, like that is like that rational. Like it's like when you pick up the dragon, you see that like white cobweb. That is like the connecting communication waves between.
It's called the psyllium network.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like and like that. And when you ground, that is like the electromagnetic fields that are like going through your feet to like help you.
It's literally just purple.
Reground
It's
and
like regular. You know what you're wearing? So like he has like cool varieties like that.
The tree one was cool.
Purple for the kids.
You
So
have
like
like mother and
purple,
father
and I'm like,
Yeah.
It's better, you know,
And all their spawns right over here, yeah. It was very, very cool.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm calling to order the Tuesday, September 9th, 2025 Southeastern Regional School Committee meeting. I'm calling this meeting to order. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's stand for a moment of silence, please. You may be seated. Okay, first up on the agenda is the student representatives report, and I know that we don't have a student representative yet.
No, they're coming. They will be here next.
But one thing I wanted to note though is that there are, are there 9?
There's 9 students that are
9
interested.
students interested, which I think is phenomenal. So that's exciting. So we look forward to meeting the new student representative next month. So next up is audiences and communications, and I just thought, Holly, it would be great if you'd introduce some of the new folks at our table, because
Of course.
Right.
So for those who have not had an opportunity to meet our new principal, Sean Desmond, we welcome Sean to his first official school year school committee meeting, as well as our new executive director of the Technical Institute, Kevin Lazaro. So welcome Kevin and Sean. Madam Chair, I'd also like to recognize folks who are here joining us. Heather Stoddard, who's an active member of our federation and attends almost every one of our meetings, so we're happy to see Heather here. Michelle Packard, who's also who's early education teacher here and also a representative of Skills USA, and Cameron Costa, who is our admissions advisor. We're pleased to have them here this evening.
thank you. Welcome. So next up on the agenda is communications.
Under communications, there's nothing under 3A.
Okay, then we'll move on to announcements.
All right, under 4A, I do have announcements. Every year, we take a moment to honor the folks who have served our school district for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and sometimes many, many longer years than that. And so at this time, I'd like to recognize 3 members of our school committee who are celebrating their 5th year with us. And first is Jerson Montero. Wow. Next is Barbara Kaplan from North. Thank you. Congratulations. And last but most certainly not least, our chair, Christine Gaze from ASU. Appreciate your service.
That's exciting.
They're really nice.
Anything for conferences, conventions, and meetings?
You'll see the upcoming events, and we have quite a few. As you'll take note that we have some subcommittee meetings coming up, and as always, members of the school committee who are not on the subcommittee are welcome to attend if you'd like. Quite a few events going on. Expectation night for the parents and families. We have college fair in the gym, and a few other events you can see coming up. Please make a note of fall advisory dinner, October the 28th. I believe that's at 6 o'clock. That's always a very nice event, and if you can join us, we'd really love to have you there.
I think the dinner theme is Italian this time.
Yeah.
You said October 28th at 6 o'clock, right?
In the
Yeah.
I did get back.
You said in the gym?
Yeah, it would be in that.
And I'm sorry, in the student
I was
comments.
very confused.
Sorry,
Okay.
sorry about that.
No, you can go to the
About
gym,
something
Kelsey.
else.
All
Right.
And the next
Okay,
up
my
is
own basketball.
news articles.
Yep. So in this month's news articles, you're going to see articles about our sports officiating program, that Southeastern piloted that last year. I'd like to acknowledge the work of Katie Tuccinardi, our Vice Principal of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, who took the lead on this. And through this program, 7 of our students were certified as game officials. And so now they can officiate games. I believe it was basketball as paid game officials. So it was a really great opportunity for them, and we're going to continue that this year. You'll also see articles introducing Sean and Kevin in their new roles. And finally, there's an article about the number of students who earned the seal of biliteracy during the last school year. I'd like to acknowledge the work of Noah Simonkiewicz, who's our assessment coordinator, who successfully supported 30 students in earning the seal, and that is up from 1 student in 2020. So that's really great work.
That's awesome. Thank you. So we're now moving on to the consent agenda. We can take it all in one vote. So we have 5A through 5F. And I'll entertain a motion for that.
Move to approve the consent agenda referencing 5A to 5F.
Second.
Oh, there you go.
Any further discussion? No questions? All right, let's bring it to the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. I did want to thank New Vision Enterprise of Brockton for the 2 microwaves that were donated to benefit staff and students. So thank you very much for that. All right, now we're moving on to our financial reports and our treasurer's cash report. And Karen.
Hello. Hey, it's good to see you all again. The treasurer's cash report is as of June 30th. It's a summary of the financial position is on the 2nd page right through June. See the different things represented by different colors there. The next page is the cash flow report. It gives you about 2.5 years here. We're gonna change that. I don't know why there's so much data. I don't know why there's so much data on this page all of a sudden, but I showed it to Mark. He'll fix that next time. So that's the total balance for the year at $13,154,000. The next page is the revenue, actual to budget revenue, and everything looks great. Came in as planned. There doesn't seem to be any variances there at all, which is always good news. The next report is the gross salaries. There's 2 columns there, the salaried employees as well as the hourly employee. Total for all 27 payrolls of fiscal 25 was $26,326,207. And the next page is the cash reconciliation report between the general ledger and the bank statements, and everything's in order. There aren't any outstanding variances. Most of the outstanding there is for the late warrants in June that go out. June 30th we had a warrant, which is probably all of that accounts payable outstanding check number there. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Karen? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
Motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, let's bring it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it 10-0. Thank you. Next up is the Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Administration's report.
So as I explained earlier, Mark had an unanticipated conflict this evening, and he'll be happy to discuss this with you at the next meeting also. But what we wanted to point out is just that the appropriated budget for last school year, this is the final appropriated budget, and so we did spend all the money. I think that's important for folks to see. So we're at 0, and the status of the revolving accounts, which you can see here, and those are all in good shape. And as we always sort of point out, that it looks like the technical institute's in the hole, but it's not. We have captured those out separately. So, but again, the assistant superintendent would be happy to review those again at the next meeting, in addition to whatever documents he has for the next meeting. So we appreciate your patience on that.
Thanks. Any comments, questions for Holly to bring back to Mark? Okay. Moving on, we need to accept the ratification of the payroll warrants. We could do that, C and D together.
Move to ratify C and D with regards to financial reports.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? If not, let's bring it to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Recusals? So it's 9-0-0-1. One recusal. Thank you. Okay, so we have no old business, which I think is interesting, but we do have a lot of new business. And first up is the New England field trips.
Right, so this is a vote that I asked the school committee to take every year. This vote allows me to approve out-of-state field trips within the 6 New England states that do not involve overnight stays. Anything involving overnight stay, we still have to come to you and get that approved. You will still be notified of these trips during the school committee for informational purposes.
Move to authorize the superintendent to approve out-of-state field trips to the New England area as long as they are not overnight, with the understanding that the field trip forms will be included in the school committee package for informational purposes.
Second.
Any further discussion?
The only discussion item for me is that this should go to policy so that our superintendent always has the authority to do this. We shouldn't have to do this every year. That's my only suggestion.
Okay. I'll make a note of that.
Can I make a note of that though?
Yeah.
Like, times could change and maybe we're not comfortable doing that. Do we really want to move to policy?
What would
I
change?
don't know. Maybe we just don't have the funds or I don't know, like.
Well, I think we can
Is that
refer
why?
we can refer it to the policy sub for further
Okay.
discussion, and then we can bring it
Yeah.
back out, you know.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
see a reason
No,
why we
no.
would never, you know what I mean? But maybe
No,
that's why
I get it.
wanted-
I'm just based upon the language of the motion today and what we're approving. So it seemed to me that that would be the authority that the superintendent would have,
Anyway, okay.
as most
Yeah.
superintendents do across the Commonwealth. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just playing devil's
No,
advocate. to-
agreed. Let's just
why it's
discuss it,
not in there.
right?
I
And we can always
appreciate
bring it
that.
back in. All right, cool.
You have to
So
vote
we have to go back and vote, right? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry.
Abstentions? Motion passes 10-0. Thank you, Tony. Next up is the Skills USA Officer Leadership Trainings.
Great. So we are very pleased this year that we have 2 state officers, Lauren McPherson and Javensely DeHady, did I pronounce that correctly? And who are Skills USA state officers, and they have the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C., and Hershey, Pennsylvania for officer leadership training. Ms. Packard, I don't know if you wanted to speak about that at all, or?
Just, you know, these are routine trainings that all the state officers go to. It's of no cost to the school, and the Skills USA takes care of all of the travel.
And consent and permission forms and everything are on file. So,
I have a general question. So I'm noticing that one of these trips is to the DC area, and I know that there's a lot of concern about what's going on down there. Does Skills have
a process
Yes.
for. I would not want to say with absolute certainty what their process is. I know that we as a school would certainly be paying attention to, you know, what's going on, and if there were safety like bulletins or things coming out. I, to this point, have not heard that it's unsafe to travel to DC, especially in a large group in a structured program. So I'm not.
I guess, you know, I can see that, but then on the other side too, like I know that there's hesitation by certain folks to be able to travel down there safely for fear of what could happen. And, you know, I don't know the histories of these students, or, you know, whether, you know, a potential status could be a barrier to them being able to do this well.
As far as I know, both the students are excited to go.
Right. I mean, is there an issue? I mean, can we just?
To my knowledge, there is no.
There's not an issue. Okay.
Okay.
I'm comfortable.
Okay.
I know where you were going because I was like,
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Yep, fair enough.
All right, move to approve the Washington DC trip and the Hershey, Pennsylvania trip for the students to attend Skills USA State Officer Leadership Training and Region 1 Leaders Conference with the Skills USA organization in September and October 2025.
It's a mouthful.
It's also small, I think I'm getting old.
Second, can I second that?
Alright, any further discussion?
I have one question.
Yes.
So off topic. Do you guys get to go to Hershey Park in October? Or is it just the convention center?
I honestly don't know. We don't go. It's just the students go with
My whole
Mr.
heart.
Ward and the other state officers. We don't attend.
I know. It's their Halloween season at this point, and it is a blast.
I hope they get to go.
I do too.
I bet they do.
Okay.
Alright, well, let's bring it to a vote.
Yes.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 10-0. Thank you, everybody. Okay, moving next to our FY25 superintendent evaluation and FY26 goals. Holly, I think you know that on August 19th we held a retreat and we met to discuss our annual performance evaluation. Basically, the process is as follows. We reviewed the year and noted some of the highlights and challenges that the district faced. Then we evaluated your performance using the DESE Superintendent Evaluation Indicators, and then we looked at the goals we had set for the previous year, rated those, and then discussed how we wanted to approach goal setting for the upcoming year. We had quite a few highlights to note. STEM Edition Phase 1 was completed. We had the completion of the 5-year strategic planning process, which is phenomenal. We got to celebrate a Skills USA National Medal winner, and then parents and other folks noted that there were quite a few improvements with the athletics program, so that was really great. And then we had a successful principal search. Challenges, and even just looking at the agenda, they address some of these challenges. The main issue that we hear about all the time is parking. And it's not just about trying to pave more parking spaces. This has been an issue that has been going on for years that we've been trying to resolve, and it's a lot more difficult than it sounds or seems to the regular person. So I know that's being worked on. The other one is graduation. We had tried to move the ceremony to Stonehill College to help us with a variety of things. It wasn't as successful, so just trying to figure out the best way for us to be able to celebrate graduation just so that everybody can celebrate and we don't have to have safety concerns or just concerns about having so many people on campus. And then communication, and I think communication should always be something to improve upon, right? You can't have 100% effective communication, so there's always room to improve. So one of the things that we would like to see is some improvement in that area, but I also know that that's in the strategic planning process as well. I know that you're already working to address those challenges. And then we went through the evaluation piece with the indicator rubric. We evaluated you this year on all 21 indicators. You had solid performance. I did want to note that all the indicators were proficient except in the areas of laws, ethics, and policies, which was exemplary, fiscal systems, exemplary, and commitment to high standards was exemplary. So a solid performance this year. One area that we did want to see improved upon within the context of this rubric is around clarity about the HR responsibilities within the role of Executive Director of Town and Community Affairs. We know that it was a brand new position, and we're hoping that to with kind of the process of trying to hire somebody in this role, that we can gain some clarity in that area. And then for goals, we evaluated you on the goals that we had set. Pretty much, many of them were partially met in that we had hoped to get some quarterly reports. We didn't quite get there, but we did get some reports, and we're hoping that maybe with the development of data dashboards that we might be able to resolve that issue. One rating where we said that you had met in your goals is improving language access for students and families. We know that that is always a continuous process, and we hope that year over year we can continue working on improving that. And then we hope to see improved communication to school committee as well. And then what we wanted to do this year is actually request that you set your own goals for the upcoming year. We did give you some guidance about some topics that we wanted to see you consider or address, and so I'm hoping that you'd be able to present those to us for us to evaluate and approve.
Okay. I have some, well, first of all, thank you. I know how hard it is to produce an evaluation, especially when the rubric is so detailed and covers so many topics. So I really do appreciate your time, your thoughtfulness. As I shared with the chair when she provided me this, the copy, that I thought that the feedback was very clear and easy for me to understand, and was well thought out. So I really do appreciate that. Certainly, I think that I would like to align my goals and the goals of my leadership team with the strategic plan for this year. We have 3 significant initiatives, one of which is very much about communications and developing a district-wide communication strategy. That would include communication strategy as it relates to the school committee, as it relates to our families, our business partners, and I've gotten some very, very good ideas from many of you about how we can improve on that. Another big initiative under that is the development of the portrait of the graduate, which will inform so much of what we do in years 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then implementation of the year 1 literacy plan. Those are some pretty big initiatives. I'd also like to develop a goal around admissions and outreach in partnership with our sending communities. I think that's going to be very important this year, that I'm really in touch with our sending communities and keeping them up to date on everything that's going on, so that they're not caught off guard. And then my professional practice goal is my license is up for renewal, and so making sure I've got all my PDPs and done everything I'm supposed to do to keep my license up to date this year, so that I can continue to practice in this role. So I have 6 months, so I'm in good shape.
No pressure.
No pressure.
So is this something that you have written out or could write out for us?
I did
yeah,
write them out. I'd be happy to send them
Yeah,
to you,
that'd
and
be
we
great.
can maybe approve them at the next.
One thing that we had talked about was reviewing this mid-year too,
Yes.
and just to check your progress. So I'm
think
hoping
that'd be
that
helpful.
with whomever the next chair is, that person will be able to do that on
Excellent.
schedule.
Thank you.
All right, moving on is item D, 2025-2026 high school calendar revision.
Okay. So we always try and put the calendar together well in advance, so we can plan, but also so our teachers and staff can plan their, when they're going to be able to take a little bit of a vacation, or so that they don't plan a vacation on a day that's really important. But I do have 2 proposed revisions to our schedule. The first is to the date of open house. Open house was originally scheduled for November the 22nd. That's our traditional date, the Saturday before Thanksgiving. However, many of our vocational teachers reported to us that that was at the end of an A week, so that's the end of a week in which they're working with freshmen, and that puts a lot of pressure and stress on them trying to get ready, trying to do exploratory and get final preparations done for open house. And so because of that, we are proposing to move it to November the 15th. The other significant change is that our graduation has always been the first Wednesday of June, which is the 3rd. However, this year, Skills USA has scheduled national competitions for that week. Normally it's the last week of June, but Atlanta is hosting the FIFA World Cup the last week of June, so they're moving Skills USA to the first week of June. So what we're proposing is that we move graduation, it's not highlighted here, but move graduation to the next week on June 10th.
Now, Foxborough is also hosting the FIFA World Cup as well.
Oh, fun.
So do we know the date? Do we know the dates of that?
That's right.
Just to make sure that doesn't conflict with
Yeah.
graduation.
Yeah.
Residents don't get first access to tickets.
I thought you guys got.
No, it's not about the
That's
spectating. It's about the. Okay, you know what I mean.
People, he was.
You
It
don't
could
get
work
first
in our
pass
favor.
access.
Yes.
Fewer people want to be here.
June
FIFA schedule.
13th to July 9th.
Is FIFA World Cup?
Yeah.
Or,
Okay.
so, in Foxborough,
Yes.
June
What-
13th.
Oh, so we're gonna
Okay,
just,
so we will
okay.
just miss it.
All right.
How does that affect the senior release date?
It doesn't reflect, it
So they
doesn't
still get out on,
they,
what is it,
they
the
will still
first?
get out on the 1st, because they go to the 168th day, so it won't change.
We have 20 snow days. I'm always just a glimmer of.
So the Farmer's Almanac says we are not going to have a lot of snow this year.
Really?
Yes.
Last time that was right.
But by doing
Knock on
this,
wood.
we're actually factoring snow days for the.
Well, when we did get hit, we got hit.
Yeah.
We did our
true.
time.
The one in the
15, yeah.
online doesn't have the graduation change.
Yes, I just noticed
Okay.
that, so we'll update it.
Okay.
We'll update, but none of it's official until you.
Right.
Yeah.
So any more questions around these two changes to the calendar?
No, but I do have a comment.
Okay.
I'm thrilled that we're moving the open house earlier into the month, yeah.
I think
It's
so
a
too.
very late date typically, and I think that's a little stressful when it comes to applications and getting students in here, so.
Yeah.
Especially where applications are shut off
good
now,
move.
January 1.
Well,
Well,
we'll
that's
talk
another
about
discussion.
that when we get to,
Oh.
get to admissions.
All right,
Sorry, I
so
read
we need to approve this, so I'll entertain a motion, go ahead,
Move to
Jen.
approve the 25-26 high school calendar revisions as proposed by the superintendent.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, let's bring it to a vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Motion passes 10-0, thank you.
Thank you.
I think these changes are great, so.
Parking.
Yeah, parking, future plans.
If you wanna do open house sooner, I'd be open to that too, just.
We've talked about moving it earlier. I mean, it's always that balance of giving the faculty enough time to get settled
To
in
get ready.
and, you know, not pushing it so close to the holidays that
I do get
everyone's
it.
losing their mind. But, and part of the reason that we had it on the Saturday before Thanksgiving is because, you know, you have your faculty working that extra day. But then the next week is a short week, so
Yeah.
it
That's right.
balances out a little bit. All right, so parking, as we discussed last year, and I know that this is a very sensitive topic. I mean, obviously, we understand the importance of driving to all of our teen drivers. You know, personally, it's such a milestone, right? It's such a rite of passage when you get your driver's license and you want to drive, and then professionally, we know many of our students use their vehicles to go to work. So not having enough parking is a big deal. We recognize that. We did work with a design firm over the summer, and we were able to add about between 25 and 30 additional spots just by sort of relining the parking lot out here and finding a few extra spots around the campus. But the reality is that the only real solution is if we're allowed to expand eastward towards Maplewood. So Mark Morris and I have a meeting with the town officials tomorrow at 1 o'clock. We're going to meet the new incoming planning board person, and I believe so, yeah. What we really want is to have some reasonable assurance from the town that if we invest in like an engineering study and things like that, that we have some reasonable prospect of success with both the planning board and the conservation committee to expand. We do believe that if we can get that over the period of several years, because you're talking millions of dollars to expand that way, just in terms of like clearing the area, repaving, things like that. You know, we want to know that they're going to actually approve that before we start investing in, you know, engineering firm fees and things like that. So we're going to get a good idea of that tomorrow. I know that unofficially, and not speaking on behalf of the select board, that our neighbor across the street who's on the select board understands that that's the only real solution for us. In the meantime, we are working on a plan to have the juniors and seniors share parking spaces as the seniors start going out on co-op. So if the seniors are going out on co-op, there's no reason that a junior can't use that space while they're away. We did actually pilot that at the end of last year and had success. So we made it very clear to the juniors, like, you have to follow the schedule. You can't have any discipline. Like, this is a privilege, and it worked very well. So we're going to try and expand that It's not a perfect solution, but at least they have something every other week that they can look forward to. And as part of that, we are going to let them know that if they are parking on Morse Road, they cannot participate in the shared parking. The issue is not parking on Morse Road, and I want to reiterate this over and over and over again. The issue is the students crossing the street, which is an unsafe street to cross. And that's the issue. Our neighbors have been very good, very patient about the students parking there, even when the students weren't necessarily good neighbors to them sometimes. But crossing that road is very dangerous, and it's too dangerous for us to put our own personnel out there to help kids cross the street. So I know I've said that, I just want to reiterate it, that we are not trying to punish kids for parking on Morse Road. We're really trying to prioritize their safety. Many of you may have seen the speed limit sign that's out in front of the school. I want to thank Chief Boone and Easton Police for putting that up there as a sort of warning to folks. We also have gotten permission from the town to put at each end of our property a flashing light, flashing school zone sign. As long as it's on our property, it's fine, just to warn people that there's a school zone coming up. So Scott Nelson has ordered those, and they'll only be active in the morning. We're not gonna, neighbors don't have to worry about like flashing lights, all day long out there. So those are just some of the things we're doing to address the safety concerns.
Holly, can I just ask a quick, Madam Chair?
Yes, of course.
Do we know, and maybe we've spoken about this before, how many spots do we really need?
That's what
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How many do we need?
So, well, we never know how many we are ultimately going to need, because as the year goes on and more kids get their licenses, we need more and more. So last year we had about 30 seniors at any given point during the year who didn't have a spot.
Okay.
And I think there were about 138 juniors. And that number grows, right, as you go through the year.
And then co-op too.
Yeah,
138 driving juniors?
yeah. Out of 400.
That's a lot of juniors.
Plus an additional 30 seniors, you said, so 168 is the number?
I don't think it's common for schools to offer parking to juniors.
It's not.
Yeah, I was just saying,
yeah,
like,
that's
so,
Yeah.
I understand that we would love to, I'm just saying, like, I don't think we're the only ones who say juniors can't park here. I think it's
No.
pretty common that schools don't have the capacity.
The good thing is the off cycle,
Yeah,
you know what I mean, so if the seniors roll out
I
on
like
co-op,
that.
the
Yeah, that's
parking
what I-
lot's empty, you
yeah.
know what I mean,
Right.
that
I think
makes
that's
sense.
great.
And we're able
It's
to
tough
do that.
navigate because,
Logistic.
you know,
I mean, ideally, because we're such a big regional school district, it's tough when the juniors can't park, because, if they
Coming
want
from everywhere.
they come from everywhere, and if they're trying to get home to get to a job or whatever, instead of just driving to work, now they've got to get bussed home, get their car, drive back to, that has
totally
real
get it.
consequences for our students, but it is not uncommon to have to limit parking because of capacity, but.
I just wanted to add to your comments about going to the conservation committee, just for folks who are new to our school, that our district is located on wetlands, and so expansion gets very difficult when you're trying to propose doing something on wetlands.
That's right.
So that's one of the barriers to trying to get this done quickly.
Correct. And we're very committed to the protection of our wetlands. The area we're talking about expanding into is actually a buffer zone, so it's not the wetlands proper. Otherwise,
That's good news.
Yeah.
It does get very
So,
We're going to be positive.
Okay.
all right. So any more questions for Holly?
I just want to
Update.
thank Holly, and I'm sure those that are listening are, because a lot of people are complaining about parking, so you all are doing an awesome job trying to figure this
I
out.
actually do have one question.
Yeah.
With I know we haven't talked to an engineer, but with the possibility of expanding, how many spots are we looking to increase?
We think we can get 200 on that.
Wow.
that'd be great.
Okay.
We think we can get 200.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Fingers crossed there.
Nice.
Okay, so moving on, F is board docs and diligent.
All right, I'm actually going to ask our recording secretary, Deborah Cabral, with the permission of the chair, to provide an update.
Board Docs has been purchased by Diligent, which they purchased them a while ago, and we will be moving over to the Diligent platform, which is upgraded from the board docs. There'll be training, there'll be everything along the way. We've just signed an agreement with them to move up.
And when do we think the final, January or February?
Probably, yeah, they keep changing it, pushing it out, so they're looking like December, January timeframe.
Okay, thank you. Moving on up. Moving on to G, the school nurse hiring process.
Okay, so we do have a vacancy for a school nurse effective September the 19th. We posted the job, we'll begin the hiring process. So the administration posts the job. Yeah, I can.
I'm just so confused at why.
Why?
A lot of job openings.
So there's a lot of competition for school nurses. There's a lot of competition, and I have had an exit interview with the school.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
We do have a vacancy. We posted the job. The administration is responsible for posting, screening applications, conducting the interviews, and selecting a finalist. The school committee is responsible for approving that finalist. Okay?
Right.
So obviously this is, with over 1,600 students, it's very crucial that we get this job filled. We do have, right now, we have 2 full-time school nurses. We have hired an assistant school nurse. However, that assistant school nurse is currently, their assignment is currently as a one-on-one for a student with complex medical needs. And then we've identified at least one substitute per diem nurse to come in and help out during the transition. We do need to identify some other subs as well, but we are going to work very diligently to get this position filled as quickly as possible, and hopefully be able to bring that to you at the October meeting. Keep your fingers crossed, and if anyone knows anyone who's interested in school nursing, the requirements, base requirements are that you have a BSN, a bachelor's in nursing, and that you are a registered nurse. It is preferable that you are licensed as a school nurse. However, if you have those 2 qualifications, and have worked in an adolescent or a pediatric setting, then you will very likely meet the requirements for licensure, and it is not a heavy lift. You can actually get licensed fairly quickly. So please, if you know anyone within your professional networks, let them know that we are looking.
I do have one question. Do we offer competitive wages for this role? Like, what? I'm just
We do.
really at a loss.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is,
happening.
Without getting into specifics, I think that there are a lot of things that influence people's decisions, and when you've got the kind of competition out there for nursing, that things like proximity to home or other things can be a deciding factor.
I'd love to see an alum fill this position.
I was just thinking I can post.
Yeah.
Any more questions for Holly regarding this process? Okay, last but not least,
Definitely not
H, high school admissions policy revised.
How exciting.
Here we go.
All right. So this is the first reading of our new admissions policy. I want to acknowledge the work of Christina Guarini, our Executive Director of Access and Engagement, as well as Cameron Costa, our admissions advisor, for sort of helping pull all the changes to the regulations together, comparing it against our previous policy, and helping really get us to a point where we have a clear policy that's easy to read. So the big questions and the big decisions that this school committee needs to make, and this is just the first reading, so you're going to have this for the next month to review before we come back in October for a final, is the type of lottery. I am recommending, and our policy includes, a weighted lottery. A weighted lottery means that every student who completes an application is entered into the lottery and receives at least one entry into the lottery. A student will receive additional entries into the lottery. We'll call them tickets, just for, so for visualization purposes. If they have less than 27 unexcused absences in the 270 days prior to application, and if they have submitted an expression of interest. So we are proposing that we use only 2 weights of the 3 that DESE allows. The third one is discipline, but the way that it's written, it is so, like it would just, everybody would get the 3rd ticket for discipline. So we're proposing that we use those weights. I believe personally that attendance and interest in vocational education are extremely important, and that we should use those criteria if we are able. So the highlighted pieces here are just sort of the big things that we want you to look at, okay? Students who live outside of the district can apply, however, we have to admit all in-district students first, and considering the fact that we've had a waiting list of over 800 students for the last couple of years, I would not anticipate that any out-of-district student would have a reasonable opportunity to be admitted.
Now, how is that different from school choice?
So we don't do school
Right, we
choice.
don't do it, but
You still have to have a policy around what happens if somebody from out of district applies. If for some reason we couldn't fill our spots, you'd probably be looking at whether or not you wanted to have school choice. It hasn't been an issue for a long time. We also clarified like what happens with students who begin their enrollment as district residents and then move outside of the district. This happens fairly frequently. So we wanted to be very clear that they can stay here, but they have to have the approval of the superintendent in the district where they reside, as well as Southeastern. So, and their own transportation we do not provide. We also did clarify that if you are a resident of the district at the time that you are offered admission, but you move out of district before enrollment, the first day of the school year, that you are not eligible. Okay? So it's very different from a student who is enrolled, is going here, and then the family moves. I also want to make a point about we currently have a policy that allows the children of faculty members who live out of district to enroll their students here if they meet the same admissions criteria. They are enrolled above the cap, so they don't displace any in-district student, and that will continue to be the policy as we've proposed here. If they meet, they would get 1 ticket or 2 tickets or 3 tickets in the lottery. If their number is selected, then we would just call one more number at the end. So,
Holly Robin has a question.
Yes.
Yeah, when you mentioned about a student who moves out of the district, who pays for that student?
there's a whole situation about tuition and whatever.
That's probably why we're in consent of superintendent.
Yeah. That's why you need the consent of the,
Yeah,
you need
because-
the consent of the other superintendent so that we can count them on our Chapter 70 enrollment, and that's how we get paid. The other superintendent has to give up the money. Yeah.
And then there's no restriction as far as where that student could live. They could live anywhere in Massachusetts, correct?
Mhm.
As long as they have the permission and
And they
the
provide their own
ability to
transportation.
transport. Okay.
The second thing that the school committee is going to have to consider, and this is a big one, is we currently do not apportion seats by community. We admit students at large, to apportion seats is going to be a very, very cumbersome process. There are differing opinions depending on who you're talking to, from one legal counsel to the next. When you talk to DESE, they say it has to be the sending community school committees have to agree on what the apportionment is. I spoke to our legal counsel, and our regional agreement is silent on how we admit students. So in the absence of anything in the regional agreement, we have an opinion that you can create policy around that. I don't think you can create policy that you don't get buy-in from the 9 communities on it, right? So this year I am not suggesting that you try and reach an apportionment agreement for the incoming class of next year, class of 2030. I don't think you have enough time to do that, but I do think we need to think about how the lottery will impact our communities.
I don't disagree with what you just said. I just have in my brain, like, what happens if a crazy amount of kids from one town get picked and their town can't afford it?
Yeah.
Like, what
And
happens?
that's our concern.
Because that's
an
a
issue.
real situation.
Yeah.
I know we've run the models and whatever, but like,
Yeah, that's a
you
real
know,
concern.
if we went from say 17 kids a year to 47 or 30, you know what I mean? That's a lot of money.
Right, even 30.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I don't
It
think
is.
they took that to consideration.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
do they have to pare it down? Do they say, sorry, you can't go? Like,
no. I mean, that's always been a risk, even with the competitive criteria. But the competitive criteria did tend to moderate that a little bit. You know, because we saw about the same percentage of kids from each town getting in of their applicants because of the criteria. I mean, I am a little bit concerned about that. I am. But we've run simulated lotteries. We haven't run an actual lottery. And so, do you want to make policy based on something that hasn't happened yet? Or do you want to sort of see how things play out, work with your communities, you know, all of us together, work with the 9 communities and develop a process.
What would be the recourse the town has if
If
that
what?
was to happen? Like, you know, if East Bridgewater got 47 kids picked, you can't pay it.
Yeah.
So what recourse would the town have?
The town doesn't have a recourse because the student has a right to come to Southeastern.
They would probably have to go to the state and try to figure that out, because that's not something that they
Right.
thought about when they.
and the state's been super helpful, so.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
They are awesome.
So I
They'll just
will
help.
be honest with you, and we talked about this a little bit, with our smaller communities, you know, East Bridgewater, West Bridgewater, Norton, Sharon, like the folks that tend to have the smaller populations applying, we really didn't see big spikes. We really didn't. Our 2 largest communities are Stoughton and Brockton, and that's where we saw sort of the spikes. So if I worry about anybody, and Foxborough was next, but if I worry about anybody, it's really Stoughton, because that's where I tended to see sort of bigger spikes, and to a lesser extent, Foxborough. But the other communities did not. I mean, they would have little jumps here and there, but it wasn't consistent. Stoughton has a large number of applicants, and so it makes sense that it's likely that they can be most effective.
I do have one additional question. Did Desi ever get back to us about an end date? So it's 270 days prior to they're submitting.
So they got back to us.
Application. They did.
Yeah,
Okay.
they got back to us, and we wrote a policy that makes sense.
10-4.
Got it.
So, yeah, it would be, I can't even begin to tell you how hard it would be for us to measure 270 days from everybody's data.
Right, that's one.
Yeah, so we wrote a policy that makes sense. So apportionment, I think, is something that, and I don't know, Madam Chair, if you want sort of an ad hoc committee around that, or if you want to take one of your existing subcommittees and maybe put that on their agenda to really focus on this year. I don't know if it's future of the district or, you know.
Yeah, so I'm thinking we're still working on the STEM edition, so that's part
Yeah.
of future of the district. So my inclination right now, given the complexity of this, is to form an ad hoc, and I can set that up.
Yeah.
Maybe that's true. We're adding more seats.
Thanks for volunteering, Kelsey.
Welcome to my world, Kim.
Yeah, so talking about the application process, so we are proposing that we open the application window for November 1st, but we want to leave it open until January 31st. And our thinking on this is November 1st gives us time to get out in the community, do the informational presentations. Again, I want to applaud Cameron and the work he does around getting into all the middle schools, organizing tours, and making sure that every student has the opportunity to learn about the opportunities here. The earliest we can close the application is January 1st. However, when we look back at our data, what we see frequently is that our English language learning families were applying at the very sort of end of the process. And I think closing it too early, and especially closing it so close to the holidays, may disadvantage groups of students that we're actually trying to encourage to apply and be here. After that, we will request the attendance data from, so you'll see here, it's not highlighted, but in this 3, is that we're going to count the 270 school days prior to January 31st for attendance. That way everybody's attendance counts equally. Otherwise, you have an inequitable system for counting attendance. We are required to have an appeal process, and that appeal process allows, what they have a right to appeal is how many tickets they're going to get in the lottery. Okay, so we need to allow some time for that. So you have to notify them at least 14 days in advance of the exact date and time of the lottery. You have to allow them some time to appeal. That appeal has to come in 15 days prior to the scheduled lottery. And so because of that, we are looking at hosting the lottery or conducting the lottery around March the 15th. The lottery itself, Cameron, am I missing anything that you want to chime in on, or?
No, I think just one thing I'd really like to highlight that kind of goes to some of the things that I know that we've been talking about as a school for a couple years now, is really just that piece that talks about how we disseminate information about Southeastern and the admissions process. I don't know if anybody knows this. I used to teach at New Bedford High School, and we were going through a whole process around how to support multilingual families and learners. So I kind of bring a lot of that informed practice into my role in terms of admissions. So if you look through some of just those strategies that we're using to ensure that it is an equitable process as to how students can get the information, working with our multilingual family engagement coordinator to actually start hosting community events within the community, and just expanding on some of the events that she's already started and tying in admissions for that, making sure our admissions policy and all of our information can be easily translated, are just some of the highlights I think are important, especially as I know that that was a big focus of our school ahead of when even Desi was talking about it. And so I think we've done a great job in really just emphasizing that. We've always kind of done it, but now we're actually writing it down to showcase what we've been able to accomplish as a school.
Actually, I have a question about that. I don't know if you can answer this, Cameron. So I work in the human services field. So when we do interpretation services, there are nuances that sometimes don't get picked up in the interpretation, right? So when we're doing referring these for translation services or doing any type of interpretation, is there, depending on how it's written and worded, is there opportunities for loss in certain areas that would affect a family's ability to truly understand the essence of a policy?
Well, I mean, I think you kind of have that in any language,
well, right?
I think even when you just look at the English language, depending on where you're from in the country, different things mean different things. So what we try to do, at least with our policy when it is translated, is also offer the opportunity and have the contact information in there for our in-house translators that are available to kind of answer some of those questions. We tell that directly to our middle school counselors as well, and I think that's part of getting at that because we want to emphasize, and they also have a lot more contact with the students, families. We ask for a list of students that they might know that might need translation assistance after they've already applied, just so that way we're able to communicate directly at home, even if they've checked it off or not. But in terms of the policy itself, some of it has to be the language that Desi gives us that we're kind of including in there, but most of what we've tried to do is really just create, in essence, plain language that might be able to just have an easier translation.
Right, because I was thinking you can do like word by word translation versus like the general idea translation, and I didn't know kind of where you lean on that, especially for something like this where you also have to be thinking about the state regulations.
Yeah, one of the things I was hoping to do this year is almost kind of create like a frequently asked questions that takes our and then kind of create like a user guide. Like, how do I use this admissions policy? How do I complete the application? What is so that way we can be a little bit more creative and more freely with how we're writing it, where it is that more conversational tone for families to understand. Okay, this is that step. This is what I need to do. This is what I press next. This is what I have to do to ensure. One of the things that we're really working on too, and kind of outlines that in there, is obviously that interest component for families, where in order for them to get that additional entry into the lottery, they have to submit interest. So we're working with our admissions site to kind of integrate that immediately into the application process itself, so that way all families are seeing it as soon as they're applying. And additionally, that's one of the things that we'll be talking about with families that will be included in the parent-friendly user guide that will be available in all of our languages, just to kind of give them a cheat code essentially to understand how our process works. In addition to, of course, like that more word-for-word translated policy.
Yeah, I appreciate that approach. Thank you so much.
We are required by, thank you, Karen. We are required by DESE to have some language around retention strategies. On average, Southeastern loses less than 1% of students. And even amongst students who don't get their first shot, it's less than 1% who leave the school. So, and
Lottery
then
needs to be televised, I heard.
the lottery has to be live
Oh,
streamed.
live streamed,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. So,
Can we do it like the old megabucks with the balls?
I wish, but man, 1,600 balls is a lot of balls.
Cameron would
So
love to put each
it's,
one's name on it.
and the number is. Yeah. That'd be great.
Sorry, Cam.
It's actually just it's a computer generated, and you click a button and the numbers come up, and that's how it's.
So how are these numbers given to students?
So they're randomly assigned to numbers through the admissions process.
And then are they told that they have a number, or are we just gonna call their name?
Oh, no, you don't call names,
Just numbers.
yeah, just numbers.
Just by number.
And Cameron, you can talk a little bit about that.
So we work with Go-To Solutions as our main admissions and exploratory site that we use. So they'll run the lottery with myself, with Holly, and
Our school attorney has to be
and
present.
It has to be present. It'll be on Zoom. We'll make sure it's shared on Facebook. But in terms of students getting their actual numbers, that'll be sent to them in the email that they provided to us on their application. And then obviously we know sometimes that might get lost, so we're also going to be sending something home through the mail, so that way they get their actual lottery number. When's the lottery? How do you access the lottery? How can you view it? If I somehow, some way missed the lottery, how do I know if I got accepted? Well, the system will automatically change a student's status to say accepted or waitlisted, similar to what we kind of do now manually, but it'll be automatic once their number gets pulled.
Okay, and are students only getting assigned a number after we go through this process of like application, and then we do the discipline, and then we do the attendance, and then we do after we do all of our vetting, and that's when they're gonna get a number generated, or is it automatically for the application?
Yeah, so typically it'll happen once we process their application, and if it does before that, we're kind of disseminating that information all at once we've made sure that all of the tickets are kind of accurate after that appeal period, just so that way we're not having to go back, and for any reason, if there is an appeal that's valid and that they needed a change in ticket, we want to make sure that everything's set before we kind of inform families essentially what their lottery number is going to be at that point.
Robin, I know you had a question.
I do have a question. You talked about how there could be swings as far as the number of students. What happens, and it can happen, that a town gets completely shut out?
It could. That was actually one of my biggest concerns for the town of Sharon, because they have sometimes 10 or 11 applications out of 1,200, 1,300. Interestingly though, every simulation I ran, 25 of them, Sharon still got seats.
Yeah.
And they still got about the same number of seats that they have over the last few years, which is about 4.
Yeah, but when you're doing
I mean, it's possible, right? It's
Anything's
absolutely possible. And I think Sharon's probably the one that I would worry about the most, is getting absolutely shut out. And I think that's one of the, you think about apportionment from the standpoint of I don't want any one community to be like financially devastated, but you also don't want students from Sharon to be left out of the opportunity to attend Southeastern. But yeah,
I think it just generally speaks to the nearsightedness of DESI. I'll go ahead and criticize DESI, I'm fine doing it. So I really think that, you know, this whole thing is, you know, very similar to what DESI's done in other circumstances, where they throw the baby out with the bathwater and they put, you know, do a one-size-fits-all across the Commonwealth. And the reality is that, you know, I don't really think that any of this applies to the student body here. I think this has been a very, you know, there's been a very heterogeneous makeup as far as students go here. And I think that this whole thing is, you know, unnecessarily being foisted upon certain schools like Southeastern. And unfortunately,
Without a waiver. They should
without
have had a waiver.
Correct. There's a lot of things that should have been done, you know, and so.
And we had the secretary was here and saw the school, saw how well it was functioning. He was part of a podcast. He saw the diversity and went back and voted for the like.
Correct, and I think honestly, you know, if Sharon or something like that does get, you know, shut out of the process and we have no seats, then, you know, I'm not saying, I have no idea what the future could hold and how, you know, how that might play out, but I think that DESI is opening themselves up to potential litigation from various districts, because at that point, they're being discriminated against, because they no longer have children who can, you know. So it's just, I mean, again, it's just another example of their nearsightedness when it comes to applying policy and just, you know. But with that being said, I don't see we have much of a choice, so let's just move forward and go with
Do
what
we
we
have
got.
a recourse if that does happen, or is there no way to?
I don't know what recourse we would have.
No.
At this point. I really don't. But again, I think that's why, as a school committee and as an administration, we have to engage in conversations with our communities about, like, how do we want to move forward to ensure, given the landscape that we have, to ensure that Sharon's not getting shut out, and that Stoughton or East Bridgewater or whatever is not going to get hit with a huge assessment one year that they're unprepared for.
Can we get notified relatively quickly after the lottery how that shakes out? Just before the phone calls
Yeah,
and
the overall data.
Sorry.
The overall data.
Nobody from my town got in.
Yeah. And it's like every year, right? So just because a student is offered acceptance does not mean they're coming, right? So, you know, for example, every year we have a few kids from Foxborough who are accepted, but they don't come, right? Or from most of our communities, right? So, but we can provide that data fairly quickly.
Do we have to have a cutoff date for when they have to tell us now? Because we're gonna have to rerun that lottery system to get more out there. Because I know we didn't.
We don't have to rerun it because everybody's now ranked. Everybody's
Also,
now.
you just take the next two.
So every number gets pulled.
Okay.
So you don't
It's
have
only that the first 420 get sent and offered. Everybody
So
else is
they wouldn't
waitlisted.
make you jumble those numbers again and do it again.
So are we gonna tell people that
So how
they're
does
number
wait?
1200? Like, you're on the wait list and you're number
1200.
1200.
I mean, at least at that point,
I guess then
they'll
you
know
really
to
know
expect,
that
you
there's
know?
You would think they'd make you jumble those numbers and run it again, besides the one
I
that
don't
you
think
picked,
so.
but.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Other question I
Yeah.
have is, I know in Stoughton,
Because you're not
I'm
really
sure a lot
ranked
of
by
other
anything,
towns,
so why wouldn't you jumble all the numbers?
process,
I
I know
mean,
our FinCom hearings are in March.
They already are that way,
And
so.
our lottery
So
might
you just go to the
not
next
be
person.
until
Yeah.
after the budget hearings.
Yeah.
And how are we, you know, it's gonna
Well, I
affect the
think with
town's
Stoughton
budgeting
in
process.
particular, we got to get out ahead of it,
Right.
like now.
Yeah,
Say
because,
this is our big concern.
yeah, because, I mean, they, you know, they're gonna budget X number of dollars and then the information and the assessment's either higher or lower and they haven't budgeted correctly. Because I know the way the budgets work in Stoughton is the books have to be printed, I think it's 2 or 3 weeks before town meeting. And they have, obviously you need that number, I mean, usually they have the whole budget done by March 30th.
Yeah.
The whole town budget, and I don't see how they're gonna, if we don't know until the 15th of March.
So, but like Stoughton's FY27 budget is based on October 1st, 2025 numbers.
Right.
So the
Okay, so it's next
outcome
year.
of the lottery in March
Won't
won't
be
hit
until
them
the
till
final,
the following
that'll be the
year.
28th. That helps a little.
Yeah.
Still though.
What is our projected time for getting numbers to students, I guess? Is it still like March?
When you say projected numbers.
Yeah, it says March 15th here.
March 15th.
March 15th, like there.
And we need to
Their
notify
number,
them the number
whatever their
14 days
number
before.
is. And they have to what?
They have to notify
So I
14
guess-
days before what their number
Right,
is.
so I guess the question is, are there gonna be people who are, like, as you process them, are they gonna get their numbers, or is everybody gonna get their numbers March 1st, let's say?
Yes.
Well, March.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is,
Yeah.
right?
So our goal, right, and this is what we were sitting down and kind of trying to pick a timeline for the application process, and obviously following within DESE's new guidelines that they've created for everyone across the state, is we picked the January 31st date because of reasons that superintendent pointed to earlier regarding our multilingual families and just being more accessible for them and allowing us more opportunities to connect with those families. But we also picked the March 15th date with that in mind of giving us enough time, right? Because we could have 100 students that apply on January 31st that now we're either having to sit down for a non-evaluated interview, or we're having to get attendance records for, and making sure that those are accurate, which is why we kind of have that middle of March date. I'm a history buff though, so preferably not the Ides of March. Right, so but maybe March 14th. So we put that on purpose just because of that, and we want to have enough time to process all of our applicants, make sure that we on our end feel comfortable to run a lottery, knowing that then when we're sending all of the information out to families all at one point, everyone's going to get their number at the same time. It'll allow us to run it at that point without any hiccups. And so it gives us essentially the entire month of February. I work over February vacation, and so we're working that entire month the same way we did this year with interviews and so forth, to ensure that the applications are completed, that numbers are generated for every single student, they have the opportunity to appeal, so that way by hopefully March 1st, realistically, we're able to get that all squared away.
And my last question is, and I might have missed it, we're given an extra ticket for interest, correct? Did we decide what we were picking for interest?
Yes.
Yeah, so we kind of came to the determination that we have to offer students all forms of the interest that was defined by DESE. So I think it was that they could sit for a non-evaluated interview, they could submit any kind of audio or visual or portfolio of their choosing, written essay of some sort or document that just kind of expresses why they're interested in Southeastern or vocational education as a whole.
Okay. So we're accepting all forms of interest.
Correct. Yeah, and it's the only way we could really ensure that it was equitable and fair amongst all students, depending on whatever their abilities are to be able to express interest.
The vocational technical program placement, so once they're here, we have not changed the process for placement. That would, I think, have put everybody over the edge and had upheaval with that as well.
Was there any edits to that? Because I know
No.
we had it was really worked well last
It
year.
worked really well last year.
But
We got a
there
lot
was
of
some talks
positive
about
feedback.
some small edits that,
Yeah.
so we didn't touch anything this year, so okay.
So we got a lot of very positive feedback from the vocational teachers about how we did it last year. So if you'll remember, in previous years, students at the end get a score of up to 400. And, if a student chose plumbing, electrical, and medical assisting, and they had a 400, if they didn't get into electrical, they bumped a kid who chose plumbing first because they had a higher score. And we didn't think that that was fair. What we found was that we had a lot of kids who were in shops that they weren't actually that interested in because they got to bump out the kids who really wanted to be there. So now we place all the first picks first, and then after that, then students get placed in their second or third or fourth or fifth shop. And we ended up with most students getting into one of their top three. Vast majority got into their top five. We had a handful that did not get their top 5 picks, and honestly, it's just going to be hard to work around that. What we really look at is making sure that we are not seeing that students who speak English as a second language, or students with disabilities, or any of our protected classes of students are being disadvantaged by the process. If that's happening, then we know we have to fix that. So we saw last year that our special education students were being placed at the same rate as their peers who were not on IEPs or 504s. And we made huge progress with our ELs, so we're going to be watching that again this year to make sure that all students have equal opportunity to be placed in the shops if they want. So there's no change there. We're still going to consider grades and attendance and discipline. So you have this policy. I encourage you all to, take the opportunity to really dig into it, and we'll bring it back for a second reading in October. And this evening, I'm just asking for approval of the first reading.
Is anybody comfortable making that motion?
Move to approve the first reading of the revised high school admissions policy.
Right. Any further discussion, questions?
I do think that we really should consider, and probably soon, what we're gonna do in terms of the
Apportionment?
Yeah. And I think the sooner we work on that, the more time we have to talk to the towns and decide, because I think Holly's right, we can't do it for this year, but if it's something that we're gonna at least consider, even if we wait till the lottery is run and then say, okay, now we're really gonna step it up, we should at least be having those conversations with the towns now.
Agreed. So kind of my plan is to form this ad hoc admissions committee ASAP, run a sub meeting, and then try to bring this back to
Is this
I
something
am
we
actually
communicate with
volunteering
our
for this.
counterparts in our own towns to say, this is something
well,
we're looking at?
I mean, possibly. I don't want to go through that here. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's something to bring to the sub, but
Yeah,
it's
I'd
definitely
love to
something
be
to
on it
consider.
if you
Okay, sure, absolutely.
Robin says she wants to speak too.
Okay,
Are we
so we
also
did
getting-
we got a first and we got a
sorry.
second. We got a motion, we got a second, and so we had some discussion. Any more discussion around this before we vote? All right, let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 10-0. Thank you.
Thank you, and again, I want to thank Cameron for being here, and I want to thank Cameron and Christina Guarini for their hard work on pulling all the disparate parts of the policy together.
I do have one question that wasn't about the policy, but about how we're getting information. Is Cameron and Christina, are you guys gonna reach out like during your counselor meetings and stuff like that to kind of get a idea of how our districts want to participate and go forward, that we could kind of use that information? Or?
Yeah, so one of the things that we hear from, so I'm the co-chair for the MAMA admissions group, and one of the things that we sometimes hear from some of our partner schools is, or rather other vocational schools, is that sometimes they are met with some difficulty with sending schools in their middle school counselors. We think we don't have that problem, so they are actually look forward and look out for my email to come into the school and to meet with us, and we've had many conversations even before Desi kind of came out with their finalized agreement, that most of them aren't in agreement with the standards that have now been placed upon us. So we definitely will reach out to them, and as them go to the schools, I openly talk to them about what are they hearing, what are their thoughts on it, how do they, or what are they hearing in terms of like what parents are talking about and students are talking about. So they definitely tell us that, and I'm happy to kind of include that in any conversations that we have, and my conversations with the superintendent.
All right, we're moving on to the report of the committees. The first up is the chair's report. I just want to remind folks, we have a lot of meetings up ahead, so I just wanted to go over all of them. I believe Deb put most of these on your calendars as invites, but I'll go over it again. So the first is September 16th, which is athletics and future of the district subcommittees. On September 17th and October 7th is negotiation sub. It's the sub only, not the full committee. And then October 14th, prior to the school committee meeting, we're doing people and culture and the TI subcommittee meetings. And then I will try to slide in an ad hoc admissions committee meeting as soon as we can prior to the October meeting. And then, as Holly had mentioned before, October 28th is the fall advisory dinner. So that concludes my report. I just really appreciate everyone's commitment. we've had a lot of meetings. Even this summer, we had quite a few meetings, so there wasn't a lot of time for rest and relaxation. So I just appreciate everybody's time, really, and dedication to making sure that we're running a smooth ship and that our students are achieving and doing well. So next up, yep.
Quick question on people and culture.
Yeah.
I think I have it twice. Could be my fault here.
Okay.
What dates do you have?
October 14th.
So you don't have the 16th?
No.
All right, I'm gonna delete that.
I do have one additional question.
Yes.
Is it possible to do the 16th stuff via Zoom?
I believe
So that is Zoom.
They say virtual.
So, yeah, so that is virtual.
Those are
I wasn't sure if we concluded that last month.
Yes, so that is virtual.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
It
no
won't allow
problem.
me to delete it.
Well, I can't help you there, Tony, sorry. All right, next up is our legislative liaison report, and Barbara.
Well, apropos to what we've all been discussing, I've entitled my report "Chaos, Confusion, Controversy, and Challenges." Not knowing you were going to say that, but it fits right in. So on the national level, I guess we all know that the Department of Education was partly dismantled. I have a question for Holly. How do we fare with what we normally get for federal funding?
So, the entitlement grants were, we believe, level funded, which is good for us. We don't use our entitlement grants for a lot of salary or things like that, so we're very conservative in how we use those. So, and we actually have some carryover from the previous fiscal year, and the federal fiscal year and our fiscal year doesn't align entirely. So we're actually in really good shape. I know there for a while we were concerned about our Title II, III, IV. Those they're always smaller pieces of what we do, but they support like teacher mentor programs and some PD and some support for early English language learners. But all of that came through. So even though it was held up for a little while, so we've done okay.
And hopefully that'll hold up.
Yes, I hope so.
On the state level, I think we were satisfied with the state budget. That was fine. To get to MCAS, so I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but DESE made the MCAS too was a big issue in addition to the lottery. That was the voters voted down. So DESE, as I understand it, is going to give guidance for graduation requirements and competency, but districts have to really come up with their own requirements. This undermines uniformity. Healy has appointed a new commission to replace MCAS in the future with a new standardized test. I think they realize that's an important thing. You know what I mean? And I know the Teachers Association were, they were big behind not using the MCAS, but we'll have to see how that happens. But the problem is it makes it difficult for all of the districts to decide how they're going to have the requirements. So it just puts more burden on us, the lottery. So DESE, despite concerns by educators, administrators, partners, parents, and other stakeholders, they adopted the lottery. No matter what anyone said, and we all watched, all of us, many of us watched the different meetings that they had on and on, but whatever anyone said, they didn't seem to hear them. We appreciated Representative Adam Scanlon and other legislators who tried valiantly to pause the lottery with a commission to study the issue, to no avail, but we thank him for that. And unfortunately, these changes raised numerous questions about the impact on school districts that we've been discussing. Both schools have little recourse and must comply with the lottery, despite whatever unintended consequences, like the number of students from each town and other issues. The only policy everyone seems to agree with is that students should not use cell phones during the school day.
I don't know if
Everyone.
I'm not sure I would say that that's universally well.
Well, maybe the students don't, but the people who are telling, we all agree with that.
AI, of course, will be a major factor in education, both exciting and intimidating for all, and there'll be a lot of changes as we move forward. And a little editorial at the end. Despite these unresolved issues, we are confident that our leadership, the teachers, support workers, and our school committee will do what we have always done, everything possible to educate our students with our own high standards and provide a supportive and learning atmosphere where every student can achieve their potential.
Here, here.
Agreed. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Moving on, is the Personnel Subcommittee report and Chair Montero, and I believe we have some things we need to vote on.
Yes. Prior to this meeting, we looked at 4 job descriptions and also a salary range adjustment. It was all the changes were approved and moved on to the full school committee to take a look at and give your opinion, also vote on the changes. I don't know if the superintendent wants to go into a little more details.
So we typically, anytime we have a vacancy in a position, we'll take a look at it, make sure that the job description is up to date, and that we're making sure that it aligns with the work that actually is being done, because as many of us know, jobs sometimes start out as this, and then they kind of become this, and if that's what people are doing, that's what we should write in. So we have updated we actually created a dedicated job description for the administrative assistant to the vice principal of student support. This is a clerical position, but it does have some very specific responsibilities related to student discipline and filing of student discipline records, notices, etc. So we wanted to call that out as a piece. The controller lead accountant, we wanted to update so that it is more in line with the actual requirements of that position in terms of qualifications. So that person does not need to be a CPA. They need to have, really the most important thing is real experience in essential functions. So we have updated that as the qualifications for that position. We are formalizing a position of part-time administrator. This position has existed in an informal way for at least 6 years, 6 or 7 years. And this is a person who holds an administrator license or is qualified to hold the license, and who assist with leadership on specific responsibilities as assigned by the superintendent, and includes administrative support for the TI in the evening. So it's paid at an hourly rate, not to exceed, and I think we had talked about the only change we would make is not to exceed 18 hours a week as opposed to 20. So that one. And then payroll specialist, we have also updated to be more in line with the qualifications and the actual role of that position as well. The one document that didn't get pulled over is that we are also recommending the addition of 2 additional steps for the evening administrative assistant salary, or it's not a salary, hourly rate schedule, because the other 2 levels of administrative assistant have 9 steps, whereas the evening secretary only has 7, and that didn't seem equitable, considering that they do very similar work, and so that was the recommendation from the personnel subcommittee, was to accept those changes and revisions.
Is there ready for a vote?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we don't have to, but.
Yeah, that's right.
Move to approve the position and salary structure as presented to the personnel subcommittee.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? If not, let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 10-0. Thank you. And then we have one more motion.
Did you combine the motions?
I thought I did.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Sorry, I
No
missed
worries.
that. Thank you. So we're done there. So other reports, I don't think we have any subcommittee reports from the summer to carry over, so we can move into the report of the superintendent and Holly.
So I did make one change too. I have a weekly meeting with my leadership team, and for the past couple of years I have continued the practice that was already in place, that I only met with people who directly report to me. But what I found over the last couple of years is that often it was important to have other voices at the table to bring a broader perspective. And so I've really broadened who we have sitting at the table to include the Director of Special Education, the Director of Guidance, anyone, honestly, anyone who's in a leadership position is invited to attend if they are able. And what it's done is also help them understand how we are making decisions as a senior leadership team, but it also allows me to understand their perspective more directly. And so we've had some really, really productive and good meetings. You will see attached there is the new hire bios for this year.
Thank you for bringing that back, Holly.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness,
Isn't that
thank
great?
you. Yes.
And it's so nice to just learn a little bit about who is working here. And the one thing I want to point out is you'll see that there are folks who are replacing retirees and et cetera. We did not lose a single teacher this year to another school district. To another school district as a teacher. We lost 2 teachers to other school districts because they got leadership positions, administrative positions. But I'm very proud of that because, we grow leaders. I do want to point out that we did hire 5 additional teachers this year. So these are new positions that were created, new teaching positions that were created that were not replacements. So 1 additional Spanish teacher, 1 additional science teacher, 2 additional physical education teachers. We have 1 vacancy still for an additional robotics and engineering teacher, but that person is really this year would be working on developing the curriculum to start in the fall of 26 with the STEM edition. So the fact that remains vacant is not an issue at this point. So we did create 5 additional teaching positions, combined with last year's 6 additional teaching positions, 4 special ed and 2 ESL. That's 11 additional teaching positions in the last 2 years. So we're very proud of that and proud of keeping our staffing high so that we can provide services and keep our class sizes as low as we can. And that is my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Holly? Moving on. First, principal's report at Southeastern Regional and Principal Desmond.
How exciting.
Yes.
Keep it brief. So our theme for this year is all about leveling up, so kind of moving things to the next level. So there are, and I said this to the staff on the first day, there's amazing things that go on here, and it's how do we kind of take where we are and move it to the next thing, right? How can we continuously improve? So that's really kind of like my mindset coming in of what can I do to help move things along. So that's really the perspective I'm going to take in looking at all the things as we go up throughout the year. Even though it's day 4 with the kids and it feels like, I don't know, the 3rd month. I digress. So last week we had our ed camps with our staff, which were great. Katie Tuccinardi did an amazing job. I give her all the credit of organizing and making sure things ran really well. We had some mandatory meetings that had to happen. There were some different trainings that needed to happen, but a lot of staff got to pick some different things they got to go to and really learn from their peers, which was really cool. I think the goal, I talked to Katie about this, is how do we make sure that these things kind of get more people at the table to plan and make sure that we're getting as many things represented as possible that people can see and learn. I've never worked in a district where the year started off like this. Like it's always been meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, and then the kids come. Like it's all these mandatory things, and having these PD opportunities for teachers, I think is really amazing, and I really liked that. So, because she asked me if I wanted to change it, like why would we change it? It sounds really cool. So, and the feedback from the teachers has been overwhelmingly positive. They really, really enjoy that. Obviously, there's some tweaks that people have, but I think taking those things into account to improve it for next year. Skills USA is a huge thing. I remember my first meeting coming here I sat over there, if you remember me. But we had some skills folks, they did their presentations, and then they did those for the opening of school, which was really cool. So they really showcased everything that they do, and this year is really about showcasing skills and what it is, getting more people to learn about it, and how do we get more kids involved, and more staff involved. So there's really kind of a push to move it up to the next level with that. How do we do that? We are Lexile testing, so kind of benchmark testing to see where kids are. Some of our data is not wonderful, like as far as reading levels, so how do we move kids up to see where they are and make sure that it's done so that we're getting quality data from the students. In the past, it's been kind of done through the English department. This year, we're having everyone do it. If we want it to be meaningful and purposeful, everyone needs to kind of be involved. So tomorrow is actually the first day. I know we're excited that everyone is doing it, and everyone is administering the Lexile testing for our first benchmark. We'll do that halfway. We'll do it tomorrow, halfway through the year, and then towards the end of the year to see where our students are going, and then use that data to kind of inform where we are. So that is coming up, and then our PD this year is really to pick off superintendent of literacy. We are focusing on literacy, so all of our professional development, our faculty meetings are focused on that. We actually had a meeting this afternoon with some folks that are interested in leading that work, and Courtney Trin is leading that. And so we met, talked about it. We started planning our first PD meeting, focusing on vocabulary strategies, thinking routines, speaking routines. And those are things we're going to work with the staff on, and then how can they incorporate those things into their content. So just because it works in environmental science doesn't mean it works in English. So how does it work for you, and give people space and time to do that. But I'm a believer in having that through line. So we start with PD and there's always follow up and see where we are, and so that it's not a one and done thing. We can't do it in September and then never touch it again. So it's really making that a part of things. Our first day of school, I think, my humble opinion, have gone really well. Students are happy, staff are happy. I think and people have just come up to me and said it's a really, really good feeling the beginning of the year. I'm like, great, I don't know any different, so it sounds good to me, and it looks really good, right? And it feels good, and people are happy to be here, kids are showing up, and staff are showing up. It's been great. The first days we had assemblies with all of the students, so we went over, reviewed expectations with every single grade, what our expectations of them are for the year, kind of behaviorally, academically, and what they can do to make sure they're involved in the school. So we did that with everyone. The cell phone and device policy is a fun, hot button issue, but I think, and you can talk to folks, I don't think it has been as big of an impact as people thought it would be. For the most part, students are keeping them away. It's not an argument, it's not a fight. I have more arguments about hats on the head than I do about having a phone out, right? So it's kind of those little things, and I feel like if you focus on the little things, all the big things fall into place because all the little stuff's taken care of. So we are focusing on some of the little things, and some folks might think that's a little harsh, but I think that's where we need to go, so we can kind of focus on the big stuff that's the really important things. But again, overall, it's been going well. And I know some of us have received some emails from folks. I have received.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
But just so you know, I've received 2 emails from students about the cell phone policy. That's it. And for the most part, students are fine with it. Co-op is starting to kick off right now. We've shifted over to an online system, so that impacts any of you, but the approval process for me is great. I get an email to sign off on the form, but it houses everything electronically as opposed to stacks and stacks of paper that I've heard exist. So it's really nice to have it in one spot. The number is right now we're at 106 students that are off and ready to go on co-op, and the numbers are still just continuing to come in. So they're excited, and we're doing what we can to get them out into jobs. Exploratory started this week. 9th grade are in and doing their thing, and they're on their first rotation right now. So they have the first 3 days, and then on Thursday, Friday, they go to their second shop, and they're all really excited. They got their blue shirts on, they're walking around, and they're really excited to be here. And then lastly, just our school council, we're getting up and running and going. We have our first meeting in 2 weeks on the 23rd. So we're getting, I have parents signed up and getting some teachers on board, getting some students there. So we're going to kick that off on the 23rd.
Great, thanks very much. Yeah, I heard really great feedback from students about the first week, so great job, everybody. Yeah.
If you didn't get a chance yet, you gotta watch the video of the dance from the opening. And,
I heard there was like song and dance or
Yes,
something like that.
I made the staff dance.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Sunshine and moonlight.
All right, so we got one question.
I have one question.
Uh-oh.
I stopped in early today. I swung by your office during a meeting, so I didn't want to bother you. But I was down in the precision machine shop, which is great. Awesome. You know, I'm recruiting, trying to recruit employees. I hired a 9th grader. Don't worry about that. It's fine. The one thing I did hear from the exploratory students is I only have one shirt. That's a problem in precision machine. Using oils, coolants, stuff like that. That's the only thing that I heard.
they all got 2.
I heard they only had one. So I might have not been told the full story. They are 9th graders. Okay.
They were all given there.
All right, so I might cause controversy here, but it would be really great if they at least had 3, because then you can wash midweek because then you have to.
Speaking as a mom?
Yeah, exactly. Laundry. Just a thought, yes, or
Are there any additional for sale in the hawk shop?
I believe so,
So
please check on that because.
I will look
Please
into that.
hold, because they say that every single year and we can never find where to buy them.
And I've had the same experience where we were told that and then we can't get the shirts.
Sorry, I stirred the pot, but that was the only.
No, that's fine.
And the person who runs the hog shop was very adamant with me that it was available, and I was very adamant with her that I've tried.
Yes.
I can find out.
And I'm tired of chasing that blue shirt around the house every day.
We got these extras here.
Sorry, it's a hot button.
I'm told that guidance may know where they are.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Excellent.
All right,
Who needs
thank
an
you.
extra shirt can go to guidance. I love it.
Please stop by guidance tomorrow.
I will say we ordered 1,000 shirts and we only have 420 freshmen. Right, so every freshman did get 2 shirts.
Yeah.
And
There's
so
160 left. So
some students have come back and have changed sizes but didn't bring back. Obviously, we're probably going to ask for the other shirts back because we don't know what's happened to them at that point. So they might have only gotten 1 shirt at that point that's in their right size. But if there is an issue, like, and you hear about it, we'll definitely make sure to get them a proper shirt that's fitting for them and the right size.
Maybe they can make that announcement to the freshmen in their exploratories.
And I think they're supposed to wear this blue shirt every single exploratory day.
We highly recommend it.
So yes.
For us, it was more of where that kind of came out. It was really just a safety thing and identifying freshmen as we don't really know who they are yet, as they're kind of walking around the halls. On obviously during their vocational week, and then there was a lot of questions about what's considered presentable, professional for freshmen when they're in their actual exploratory. So it gave all students a way to kind of be evaluated the same in terms of when we're looking at professionalism and how they're showing up to their vocational program for exploratory.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on. Executive Director of the TI's report. And Kevin, I do want to say, should we just call it your first report even though it's officially your second?
Call what you want.
All right.
Thank you. It's funny because a colleague of mine made fun of me because I used Sean's level up. She's like, "Did you use Sean's level up?" I go, "Damn it." But serendipitously, I came up with a theme for the TI as well. I think each year should have a theme, so it's kind of it wasn't a piggyback on Sean, it just kind of came up, but I didn't put it here. And with TI, I actually had mugs made for them, and it says "Embrace growth," as the TI evolves and moves forward. So I want to start off with that and share that because we are going through a growth period and things are evolving there in the best possible way, right? But opening school, we have 40 practical nurse students, 11 medical and dental assistant students show up and enrolled, and show up. That was really positive. It was pretty smooth from what I witnessed. I've been part of 15 years of different openings in different schools, and it was really smooth. And I'm fortunate enough to have really a good, solid team that's year round there in the TI, and they made that a lot easier for myself. As far as the rest of the report here, Easton, one which is probably the big one there. We met with officials from Bourne to explain where we were in terms of our candidacy with Easton, which is our accrediting body for the practical nursing program. When it was submitted by Pat Ilsley, she knew it was going to come back with certain recommendations. We made that transparent to the board of nursing, explained to where we were, and they will be making a site visit in the fall. They give you 30 days notice, so my guesstimation is going to be October, November, right? That's typically, what I would assume fall is. So a lot of work's being done right now with Pat, myself, and all the teachers for not just what Easton's asking for, but part of other parts of their ask, which includes a set plan, which is really important parts of accreditation for the PN program. Class is off to a good start in that area as well, like I mentioned there. And the key takeaway was Bourne they don't move the deadline, so Bourne's deadline is still December of this year. What they stated to us is that as long as Easton has in candidacy, which means you're in process of being reviewed, it will suffice for Bourne, and it will suffice for Bourne's needs, which is a huge positive in my opinion, and from Pat and the rest of the team. So that's really good news. Other positive news, the dental assistant program recently got CODA accreditation. We were accredited but warning, and that was in part because they take the CTI grant programs that we do with ComCore and Mass Higher Brockton, and they count those completion rates into that, which is not accurate. So they took that out, reviewed it, and they gave us full accreditation, which is awesome. That's great news. And last but not least, we hired a new dental assistant instructor. Her name is Michaela Henry. She's great. She actually started today. She got cleared pretty quickly and made herself available. So considering all things, that was a good win. I mean, to only have, essentially 2 days, 3 days without an additional instructor was a huge save. So that's kind of where we're at right now with the TI.
Okay, awesome.
Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? So I will tell you something. What we have tried to do is rotate around the administrative report. So if you have if you're dueling on an idea and you want to get to us first, just make sure you're on the rotation. Yeah. Just something to note. Okay. Do we have executive session?
We do not. I just one thing I want to point out is, we talked about the part-time administrator earlier. So one of the things that a part-time administrator would do is assist Kevin with the accreditation process and everything that's going on with Bourne and Easton, because it's a whole lot of work to try and get done while you're also trying to manage the whole TI. So that's just an example of when we would pull someone in for that. But I want to. Her name's Pat Ilsley. But I want to applaud both Kevin and Sean, who have really hit the ground running, and I've seen how hard they're working to learn their roles, to learn the people here, and to get to know people. And I just want to tell them how much I appreciate the hard work they put in over the summer, and it's paying off right now. So thank you very much.
Well, we don't have executive session this evening, so unless somebody is totally against it, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second. All right, let's vote on this quickly. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Oh, who was the second? Jess. So it passed 10-0, but I do have a request. All 10 of us are here tonight. So instead of just using our photoshopped version of everybody in a photo, can we just get a photo of all of us? I know, not everybody's dressed up.
I'm not pretty.
Bad hair.
Oh, no.
I really am okay.
Okay, all right, so I appreciate that on behalf. Thank you.
It's like a professional thing. Outside.
You know what's funny?
My wedding picture.
Was that your wedding picture? Oh, my God.
My wedding headshot.
I do.